Joined now by Rutgers head coach Greg Schiano. Thanks for joining us on Kings of the North.
Yeah, my pleasure, Doug.
Greg, should I start with telling you what I predicted as Rutgers' Big Ten record this year? Do you want to hear that or not?
No.
Okay.
No, thanks.
I think you guys can have a top 20 national defense this year with what you guys do, with the players you have back. You have, I think, established a defensive standard at Rutgers, but it feels like with as much talent as you have and the guys returning, you really can do something defensively this year. Where do you think your defense is right now?
I would agree with you. I think we have a lot of experienced players coming back. Joe Harris-Simiak, our defense coordinator, is the best. Totally trust him. The relationship and the bond those guys have is special. And, we just got to go out and we got to stay healthy. That's number one. And then we got to go execute.
When you think, how much do you think about your offense and defense in concert all the time? Like, are they the same? It's the same conversation to you? For me to even ask about one side of the ball without asking about the other, like, does that make sense to you? Or like it's all connected? It's all the same thing. We're one team.
The way we do it, and it's not the way everybody does it, but the way we do it is complementary football. Yep. So the offense has to complement the defense and vice versa. And the bridge between the two of them is special teams. And I believe strongly in that. So, I'm thrilled about where we're headed offensively. That when we came back to Rutgers, offensively is where the talent was really diminished.
Yep.
Defense, we had a few players that are, now playing in the NFL. So that shows what kind of players they were. Offensively, not so much. We had a really good running back, but he didn't have any linemen or people that were able to really help him be what he was capable of. And that showed when he went and won 2 Super Bowl championships, So yeah, we really believe in complementary football, so it has to fit together.
Yeah. Isaiah Pacheco, great.
Isaiah Pacheco, you got it.
Yeah, that guy's good. So when you think about a back like Kyle Monangai, who, by the way, in the preseason poll that we conducted here for the Big Ten, I voted him as the preseason offensive player of the year on my ballot with what Kyle has done and I think what Kyle can do. When you have a back like that, do you just run him as much as you need to use him to win a football game, or do you think about a holistic plan for the season of number of carries or usage to get him through a whole year when he's as good as he is and he's as important to your offense as he is?
Well, you definitely think of a holistic plan.
Okay.
But you get into a game and you got to win the game. The holistic plan goes out the window. You got to win that game. The good thing for us, we have, I think, real good depth at the running back position. Sam Brown, who is the second team running back, I think is exceptional and a different style.
Yep.
He's a big guy, 6'2", 220 pounds. And I think it gives a little different feel. And then Jashawn Benjamin, who's behind him, is another guy. He's a Pahokee kid from Florida, quick as a cat, really, really a talented running back. And we have some other guys as well. So I'm excited about that position group. So Kyle doesn't have to take every darn carry.
Yep.
But yeah, certainly Kyle's special. So he's going to get his share, man.
So I was watching your spring game, right? Nassim Brantley looks like a number one receiver to me, and I know you have some other guys there. Like, what do you think about that receiving core and what that will do for your passing game?
Yeah, I think the receiving core is going to be much improved.
Yep.
Don't know who it's going to be. The competition is fierce right now. And really what we try to do is we try to get 6 guys ready to go, maybe a 7th if it's warranted, but 6 are going to play. And you hit it on the head. There's some guys like Nassim couldn't play last year because of NCAA.
Yep.
He transferred and they didn't allow him to play, which that's a whole nother story. But you look at a guy, Ian Strong, who was a freshman last year, caught a touchdown pass in his opening game as a freshman. He's a year stronger, a year bigger, a year well-versed in the system. I think he's got a chance. Dymere Miller, a young man who came to us through the portal from Monmouth University in New Jersey. It's a 1AA program, but he was all everything in 1AA. When I got a chance to see him this spring, he moves a little differently than the rest. And being in our strength and conditioning program, being in our nutrition program, which, you don't have the same resources at a 1AA, you can see his body's transforming as we speak. So there's a bunch of guys that I think could really, really make some noise in the receiving department. Christian Dremel, who is our leading receiver.
Yep.
It's kind of a lunch bucket guy who does a great job. So we'll do it by committee, I'm sure, but there's some good players there.
Do you believe in serendipity and that kind of thing? Because I could maybe spin a world where the Brantley thing last year was a mess and you were not happy about it. And we can talk about the NCAA, but we won't because we're here to talk about ball. But the result is Brantley's here now. with a team with Kamaran guys back and all these guys on defensive back. And you know what? Like, if it doesn't go that way, maybe he's not. Like, do things happen sometimes that you're mad about in the moment and it actually kind of works out?
Oh, I think we all know they do, right? I mean, and you're darn right. In the moment, you're really mad. I was really mad because I thought it could have been avoided. But retrospectively now, it's nice to have them, that's for sure.
Yeah. When you think about quarterback play and the decision that you guys made, we're watching you this spring and we're talking on this show and we're saying, man, I'll tell you what, I think you can do something with Kaliak-Manis and Wimsatt and maybe have something here. And it feels like you made a decision to just be forthright with your players after spring football. And I was like, man, I don't know. Greg could have strung them along and had both guys there for the fall, but you didn't handle it that way. How did you decide this is the way I'm going to handle this quarterback situation when you have two capable guys?
Well, I really felt Ethan outplayed Wimsatt.
Yep.
So it wasn't, if it were close, I wouldn't have said anything, but it wasn't. And I was going to name him starter. I knew that. I also knew that Gavin Wimsatt made a decision to come to Rutgers when he could have gone wherever he wanted in the country and decided to come play for us.
Yep.
And I didn't forget that. He and his family are special people. It just didn't work out at Rutgers. But man alive, if he wanted to stay, he was welcome. I wanted him to stay. But if he wanted to have the opportunity to look elsewhere, if I didn't tell him, then the window would have closed and he wouldn't have been able to transfer. He ended up transferring, which some may say in the afternoon, why did you let him do that? It's just, to me, it was the right thing to do. And if it was my son, that's the way I would have wanted him treated. So I did it.
When you looked at what you guys did last year, did you just think to yourself, I'd like us to be able to throw the ball a little more consistently down the field?
Not even so much down the field. I just want to be able to throw more accurately.
Okay.
There's a lot of yards after catch that we were unable to get because the ball was either incomplete, high or low, or not in a position where he could catch and keep moving. And I think that's critical. And I just, at the end of the spring, I didn't think that Gavin had improved enough with his accuracy, whereas Ethan was much more accurate.
Yeah. What does that do if that happens with the receiving group you're talking about and with Ethan, who's played in the Big Ten before? What does that do for Monongai? What does that do for the running game if that happens? Because he's been one of the best running backs around, maybe without defenses worrying about the passing game that much.
Well, yeah, I would say 100% not that much, right? You mentioned the stat. We weren't very high ranked in yards, in passing yards.
Yep.
So what do people do? They start to crowd the box. So Kyle ran into disadvantaged box several times.
Yep.
And still found a way to make yardage. So hopefully if we can throw the ball with a little more efficiency, a little more effectiveness, that'll open up some more lanes for Kyle.
I have used you. I had an interview with Bill O'Brien at Boston College. And I'd said this on the show, like, to me, what you are doing at Rutgers after a very successful coaching career, and to be at Rutgers now and make that decision and be there and have immense possibility at Rutgers, and the place very well. And I thought, Bill O'Brien had a great coaching career, and here he is at Boston College, and I think he really has 2 feet there, and maybe has a chance to really build something at Boston College. Like, how do you feel right now with where you've been, what you've done, and round 2 at Rutgers, where you guys are right now as a program, right? How good do you feel about where you are, where Rutgers is?
I feel really fortunate. I feel blessed to be able to have the opportunity to be at Rutgers. It was my dream from 2002 on. I really felt like Rutgers belonged in the Big Ten. So that's all I did other than coach and recruit for our team was pursue an opportunity in the Big Ten. I think Jim Delaney was sick of seeing me at any event because I would come, Jim's a Jersey guy. I would badger him. Come on now, you got to give us a chance. I had people with senators. I had all our alums that could have any kind of impact. And to no avail. I left. One of the main reasons I left is I was afraid we were going to get left out of all the leagues. And, I learned a valuable lesson. When I left Rutgers, I ran from something, not to it. I didn't want to go to the NFL. People say, oh, you had to take the job. It's 1 of 32. I never had planned. I never prepared to be a head coach in the National Football League. It's the only thing in my life I never prepared for. And I ran from something instead of to something. And, the rest of the story, I got my rear end fired. So to have the opportunity to come back to really what was my dream job. I grew up in New Jersey. It's where I'm from. To be able to be the head coach of the State University of New Jersey and be in the Big Ten, that's a huge, I'd call it a huge opportunity and something I'm grateful for.
If you had known for a fact, if it had been announced Rutgers is going to the Big Ten or other, would you have stayed the whole time?
Oh, yeah. I made the decision. I turned down I actually accepted the Michigan job for one night and then turned it back in the morning. And when I did that, we had built a house right next to campus. I said, I'm here for the rest of my career. And then things went haywire. The Big East fell apart. We were in the American Athletic Conference, no disrespect to the American, but after 11 years, that's not what I had stayed there to build, to be in that league. So, as fate would have it, or whatever you call it, along comes the NFL and I had the opportunity and I took it. I'm not sorry about it. I think everything happens for a reason. Like you said, serendipity. I think that it all fits together. But to have the opportunity to be back at Rutgers and be able to build something that's more than just a job to me, right? It's something that's in my blood and in my family's blood. It's exciting.
That's what changes programs, I think. When you have somebody who's has been through it, who knows it, who's 2 feet in and isn't looking for what's next. Because sometimes, right, if you're not Ohio State or Michigan or one of the 5-10 best jobs in the country, Kalen DeBoer just left Washington and go to Alabama, right? Washington had a great year. Puts them in a little bit of a tough spot. I don't need you to guarantee I'm never leaving Rutgers, but it provides opportunity, I think, for Rutgers in a way that is, I think, unusual and special.
Yeah, I think in recruiting, players know this is it for me. I don't know how long it'll be, but when I'm done here, I'm done. So I'm excited about what we are building. I'm excited about how we've recruited the last few years, how we're recruiting now. Because at the end of the day, I don't go on rankings, but I do go on my feeling I have about each and every recruit we have. And I really feel good about the young men we've recruited. We have some really talented young players in the program. We have a bunch more coming. And most importantly, all those talented players I feel are cultural fits, guys that belong at our place. We're different. We're not going to be able to do it the way the Blue Bloods do. We have to do it a little bit differently, but it doesn't mean it can't be done. It's just being done differently.
You have to get players from Florida and the South. Everybody in the North has to do that. We understand that. But you worked for Urban Meyer at Ohio State. Urban Meyer loved to say, make the great state of Ohio proud, right? He didn't want any high school player in Ohio that Ohio State wanted to leave Ohio. In my career, I've had a lot of conversations about Rutgers not keeping the best players in New Jersey home. And it feels like the tide is turning a little bit on that. We understand Bama and Georgia and Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State are still going to come in there. And there's a lot of great players. But there's a foundation there with New Jersey high school football. How do you feel about the way Rutgers right now is getting that message out to Jersey high school football players? It feels like maybe better than it's ever been done.
Well, it certainly is very important to us, right? In our backyard, New Jersey and New York City, Long Island. That's like literally our backyard. But it's got to be the right players, Doug. It can't just be because they're from New Jersey. That doesn't work. They got to be a cultural fit for our program. And if they're not, I'd rather they go away somewhere else. It's not right. To me, it's all about fit. And at this age, at my stage in my career, I don't worry about rankings. I don't worry about all that stuff that some other coaches worry about. I worry about, is this guy going to be a great fit for our program? Is he a guy that's going to develop because he wants to be developed and then eventually be like the guys that I brought here today, right? There's 3 Jersey players today. Kyle Monungai, right? Mohamed Toure and Tyrene Powell. All 3 Jersey kids, all kids that really bleed Rutgers red. I mean, they die for that place. And that to me is what we need to have. We need to have the guys that want to be there and that believe in the things we believe in.
I have you going 7-2 in the Big Ten. I know you didn't want to hear it. There's a lot of there. I have to say it. It's about having. I think you have an opportunity to really play complementary football. I mean, to me, when you think about the Big Ten and other people who say playing complementary football, you look at what Iowa's done with Kirk Ferentz and the success that they've had, and they've built a defensive foundation there, and they have great offensive linemen, and they have great tight ends on offense, right? And they have a way of doing things, and it works. Right. And so you're not trying to be anybody else. But when I think what your plan is and with what you're doing in recruiting and the energy that's behind the program right now, and it feels like you have buy-in there, I think Rutgers football's in a good spot, man.
I appreciate it, Doug. But as you know, you're as good as today, right? So I'm going to go do it today.
As I know, Greg doesn't care what a guy with a microphone says about football. So, we will be watching Rutgers football with great interest and curiosity this year, and we certainly appreciate you, Greg, joining us here on Kings of the North.
No, thanks for having me, Doug. Appreciate it.